Working out can actually be worse for your mental health. It sounds completely crazy, doesn't it? But I have some personal stories that can back this up. We're going to be watching a video from a highly qualified person from TikTok. Now, this is the internet, and people love to make assumptions and then get really mad at you for the assumptions that they've made, which I find truly hilarious. So here's a segment I'm going to call super obvious disclaimer time. Now, before you start rage typing, no, I am not telling people that they shouldn't exercise. And obviously, when I talk about my personal experiences, I'm not saying they're going to happen to everybody. And you need to actually watch the full video to hear my full opinion. Now let's watch this video that has sparked this controversy.
There was a research study done that showed that individuals who worked out more than 23 times per month, or more than 90 minutes per session had worse mental health outcomes. In this study, they did find that there was a sweet spot, and that sweet spot was exercising 30 to 60 minutes, 3 to 5 times per week. Individuals who did less than that and individuals who did more than that, again, experienced worse mental health outcomes.
So she's definitely pointing out that there is a sweet spot, and it's between 3 to 5 days a week, between 30 to 60 minutes. And that if you exercise less than that 3 to 5 days a week for 30 to 60 minutes, then you'll experience worse health outcomes, as well as exercising more than that.
In this study, the researchers believe that it was the individuals who were exercising a lot that were also exhibiting obsessive behaviors around exercise, meaning they would get really upset if they missed a workout session, or found themselves doing that thing where they would only give themselves permission to eat food if they had exercised. Obsessive exercise does fall under the OSFED category, or other specified feeding and meaning individuals who are exercising a lot could be exhibiting behaviors.
The point she made about individuals obsessing about exercise and making themselves feel bad when they've missed a session, feel guilty, or feel like they can't eat because they haven't worked out, that perfectly describes exactly how my experience played out in those couple of years where I really struggled with over-exercising. And although I didn't have OSFED, I did have other EDs and other ED related behaviours. And I think it's a great point because these behaviours are super prevalent within the fitness industry, and they're often really praised. And that's one reason why I didn't realise that I was sick again, because my behaviours and my discipline was massively praised, when actually I was becoming very unwell again and I hadn't really realised. But I'll get into that a bit more in a minute. Let's let her finish.
Now, don't go and say, oh my gosh, this lady's telling us not to exercise. No, what I am telling you is that there is a such thing as too much exercise, and it may be even on a lower scale than you think. So what I want you to do is find exercise that you enjoy and exercise that you're going to maintain at a moderate level without finding yourself obsessed or beating yourself into the ground just because someone told you that's the best workout.
She's so right there. We don't need to be punishing ourselves. And one of the main things that we need to consider about exercise is that we should find it enjoyable. And that's something I've only really realised over the last couple of years. I just want to point out that there could be potentially a case of correlation versus causation here, in that people that have worse mental health outcomes might exercise more, and that could sway the statistics. Often people use exercise as a coping mechanism for their mental health issues, and often people go to the gym and say it's my therapy instead of actually going to therapy. So it would also make sense that those people that are overtraining are maybe avoiding something and avoiding working on their mental health and just using exercise as a coping mechanism. But we can't really say one way or another. The study says what it says, and it's really interesting. In my personal story, I started doing CrossFit and I got very addicted very quickly. I ended up training 6 to 7 days a week and I got very obsessed. Those days turned into double days when I was in the gym for probably longer than about 2 hours a day in the gym. I was obsessed, and also obsessed with losing weight and trying to get my body to a certain size, as well as getting better at the sport that I was doing. In CrossFit, you can feel a lot of pressure to get better and better, to improve this wide range of areas that honestly you need a lot of time to work on all of these different areas, especially if you don't come into the sport with a good, strong base in like gymnastics, weightlifting or cardio. I was severely lacking in the gymnastics area, and that's something that I dedicated a lot of my time to working on. I also enjoyed the cardio, and did I enjoy it? I was sort of using the cardio as a way to get into a real deep hole. I struggled with issues around self-harm, and I definitely used exercise in that way. I was drawn towards the workouts that created a lot of suffering, and that kind of attitude is also very glorified in the sport that I do. So again, even though I was literally beating myself into the ground to get better at CrossFit, there were no alarm bells telling me that that wasn't okay, because loads of people were training more and more, doing double days. If you wanted to get better, it was just seen as a sacrifice that you have to make, and I did want to get better better. I was competitive, I was competing in a lot of competitions and doing very well in a serious amount of them, and I wanted to improve, so I was putting all of my energy and effort into that. But the reason I started exercise in the first place was to improve my mental health, and it definitely did that in the first year or so. And then it started to spiral out of control and my mental health started to get worse. And I became one of those people using exercise as a means of escape from my mental health issues. And it was also a coping mechanism. In previous years, I struggled with binge eating and also with using alcohol to self-medicate my feelings and emotions. I have bipolar disorder, so I have a lot of feelings and I struggle a lot with mental health. And I had used those things and basically I ended up replacing that with exercise. No shock, my mental health got worse, I spiraled into my ED and I ended up just feeling completely lost. Like I almost didn't know what I was doing or why I was there. Even though I was doing really well in the competitions, I wasn't happy and I didn't understand why I wasn't happy, because we've been sold this idea that by getting better at this sport we would be happier, and also by getting thinner and getting healthier, even though I wasn't healthy, then I would be happier, and I wasn't. I was struggling more with my mental health, and I think this has something to do with it. The obsession and that mindset we're kind of encouraged to have, it was all very damaging. And over the last couple of years, I've really reduced the amount that I train. Exercise can be really helpful for mental health, so it's not something that I can personally live without. It is one of the main tools that I use to keep myself stable with my bipolar disorder, and if I don't exercise at all, I start to struggle really badly with my mental health, so it's never something that is going to leave my life. And she is very clearly saying that exercising enough, but not to the point where you're overdoing it, still has very positive health outcomes and mental health outcomes, but that not seeing it as a punishment is super important. And this is something that I realised as well. I started to gravitate away from just doing all CrossFit all the time and recognised that my ability to achieve it in a sport didn't really matter in the grand scheme of things. It wasn't giving me fulfilment, and every time I got better I just set a goal that was further away. I got my first muscle up and then I immediately wanted two. I wanted to link them, I wanted to do them in workouts, and that just made me really unhappy. And people will really flippantly say, well, that's your fault, that's your mindset problem, but yeah, like you can't change your mindset overnight. And I struggled with mental health, I struggle with anxiety, I struggle with very obsessive thinking. So to dismiss it as like, oh, that's just it's your own fault, it's a mindset problem, that isn't helpful, because it's not something that I can just click my fingers and change. It just meant that for me in that moment, and now still, that CrossFit and trying to get better at CrossFit is not the best thing for me and my health. And I realised a lot of the workouts that I was forcing myself to do I wasn't loving, and the fact that I was forcing myself to go to CrossFit, even up until a couple of years ago, 6 times a week, I wasn't enjoying that, and I'd taken my love out of the sport. So then I had a bit of time out of CrossFit and I did Olympic weightlifting and a little bit of CrossFit on the side, and then I got back into CrossFit and reduced my sessions down. I started doing stuff like swimming and rowing and other things that I enjoy, and I've also recently got a gym membership at a commercial gym, and I train with my partner, and we actually do train for a little bit longer than she said. We train for about 2 hours, but a fair amount of that is us actually messing around. So it's not like 2 hours of really intensive workout, it's like some casual like back squats and Olympic weightlifting followed by like a bit of pull-ups maybe, and then like a little cardio based WOD, and then afterwards we kind of play around with handstands. So it's really chill and quite a nice format where we just kind of enjoy training. And I do that once a week, and then I probably swim about once a week, and I've also started doing random classes like box fit, which I'm loving. I want to try a spinning class, and I'm basically just following what I enjoy. And honestly, that has been so much better for my mental health. It's literally unbelievable. The amount of joy that I have coming out of like a box fit class where I've just had fun like punching for 45 minutes. I'm just obsessed. I love it. And like being in the sea, I love being in the sea. I love the cold water. I love the coast where I live. And it's got me out of that mindset that I need to be like crushing myself with workouts every day. Sea swimming is actually really good for fitness and health. And it's just great for my mental health to be out in the water and outside. I've started listening to my body more, and my physical health outcomes have also improved. I've recovered my relationship with training and also with food. And now everything that I do has the main goal of physical and mental mental health. And I do think a lot of the time we're really encouraged to see exercise as a punishment and exercise as a way to lose weight or to make your body look a certain way, and it's completely missed that we should be going for like fitness and health and mental health goals. I mean, you're allowed to do whatever you want with your body, whatever way you want to train, that's totally fine, and you don't have to train for health if you don't want to. But personally, I realised that that's the reason I started training, and it's the reason that I want to continue training for the rest of my life. I'm not training to shape my body into something that I want it to be right now. I'm training so that my 80-year-old self will be fit and healthy and strong. And with this method of listening to our body and training just the right amount that our body needs, exercise will be way more sustainable and motivation comes a lot easier. Pain and suffering is not great for habit forming, but when you do something that makes you feel good, that is a great way to form a new habit. So if you take anything from this video, try and exercise in a way that you enjoy, and the health outcomes that you're striving for will follow from there. If you want to hear about the reality of recovering, then watch this video next. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye!